Welcome someone who needs no introduction at all, Jared, who most of you know quite well.
Yeah.
Working with InterVarsity, doing missions work with the students here in Southern Ontario, and you're going to hear a lot about what he does, I imagine, over the next little while. So, Jared, it is awesome to have you here. It's awesome to get to partner with you in what you do. So, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, it's so good to be here with you guys this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my family and I, we used to go to church here. We still come when we can. I was thinking about it this morning, and I think what it was that we reached a quota of tall, bald men in the church, so I had to, when Jeff came, I had to leave. No, I was kidding. No, but so we actually, and we used to live in where Jeff lives next door. So God it was great to know that he kind of worked that out. That as we were moving, they needed somewhere to live, and it's worked out well. So, but we live in Barrie now, and I'm going to say a little bit about that. But first off this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about hope this morning. That's the theme kind of overall. Leah and I were chatting briefly. Last year I came and shared, and it was tough because her and the kids were sick, and I came by myself, and it had been a busy summer, a hard summer, and she was like, when you talk this time, could you maybe be a little bit more upbeat? I heard that maybe you were kind of, and I was like, okay. So, but we made it this morning, got everybody in the car and down the highway on time. So, but I've got a lot of reasons to be hopeful in this past year, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about the way that God's been working in my life, in our family, in students' lives. So I'm just going to start off, say a little bit about, hold on a second. As I told Jim, I was like, yeah, it's okay if I can't see the slides, but then you might have to bear with me for a second. I'm going to talk about these guys first. So this is my family, Theodore, Iris, and Leah. They're downstairs. They were like, can we go to Sunday school? Because I think they miss going. But this is them painting Iris's room. And there's been we did a bunch of renovations on a house. We moved in with Leah's parents in Barrie. And and so a little update on what's been going on with us. Leah is about to finish her master's, and she's been working very, very hard. Melody, that's right. So, but I know it's been tough. But she was actually supposed to be done, and she said, actually, I want to bring on another focus, and now is hopefully going to be done by Christmas. So she's been working hard. Iris made the volleyball team this past Monday, Tuesday. She is excited, and she was super excited until she found out that she's going to have to play against other schools. We're like, yeah, that's kind of the point. But so she's excited, though, and a little bit nervous, and I think she's one of the only grade 4s that made it. So, and then Theo, he is, I don't know, he's like super typical 6-year-old boy who's like, wait a minute, like in grade 1 we do more sitting. So, but he's learning to read, and he's enjoying it a lot, and it's been great to see them growing and learning and stuff, and they're finding friends and stuff in Barrie. So thanks for all your prayer and support, over the years. I know praying for us, our ministry that I get to do, and for I'm one of the missionaries that you guys have here at the church, and that's so helpful to know that not just because you guys are praying for me, but also supporting financially has been so wonderful. So, I really just appreciate that a lot. Now, I'll go back a slide so you'll get to see these guys again. But I work for an organization called the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, and we're a parachurch organization, and actually this year, we've been in Canada now for 97 years, which is, I haven't been there the whole time, but for the last 13 years, I've been there. Well, this is my 13th year, and that was how I got connected here. Jenny was one of my first students when I came to Humberside here in Toronto, and there's some other people here, like Paloma was at Humberside, a couple other people that I've got to do things with at the schools. And this is, maybe, I hope all my things aren't that small. Maybe my eyes are just getting bad. But one of the things we've recently changed a little bit of our focus, not that it's that different, but at InterVarsity, our aim is to support young people through the crucial years of growing up by helping them meet and follow Jesus. Growing up, I think it is so important that people need Jesus in our lives, right? So, and we provide mentorship, community through our high school, university, workplace groups, and camps. So we long to see young people emerge into adult with growing faith and confidence to take on their next steps in life. So one of the things I love about my job with InterVarsity is that, like, my kids have been involved. Like, Theodore has been involved at camp now since he was like 3. And we do ministry that goes all the way to, like, postgraduate studies, where we're trying to say, how do we help people? How do we be community for people and center that around Jesus? And it's just, it's been great to get to be part of that. So my main role has been working with high school students. Sometimes that is at camp, and I'm going to get to share a little bit about that. So one of the things also now is with high school students is I've actually just moved into, I still can't even get my head around it, and I'm actually not even sure of the full title, but I am now the high school ministry director for Southwestern Ontario. So it means that I'm like hiring people, and there's new people and all these kinds of things, which is great. It's not always my skill set, but it's been good to see how God's working. So yeah, and for the last 5 years, like I said, I've got to work at camp specifically directing the LIT program, which is Leaders in Training. And so I wanted to share some hope highlights from camp in the school year so far. So these are the kids that were at LIT with me this year. This is actually, we have a nice picture also somewhere, but this is like the obligatory picture that the guy right in the front middle, in front of me, his name is Kyle, and he's our camp photographer, and he always takes a goofy picture with everybody. So we've had people from all over the world coming, and we do 2.5 weeks of like training, Bible training, learning about, some of it is just like how do you help kids when they're homesick, that kind of stuff, but also helping them to grow in their faith. And then they get to go for 2 weeks and be in cabins with the kids and helping them learn and grow. And it's just been awesome to get to be part of that. So that's at Ontario Pioneer Camp, where I know there's people here who've gone there, and people who've supported the camp as well. And I've just really enjoyed getting to be there. A friend of mine likes to say that, like, camp and a lot of the ministry that we do, our model of ministry is getting high school students and young people to do things that they really probably shouldn't be doing. But it's in the sense of like giving them responsibilities, giving them like saying, okay, like, here, you guys want to see this happen? Like, how can I help you do that? And like, you're going to take the leadership, you're going to step into it, right? And because also we're partnering with God as we do that, you see them do amazing things. You see them grow, you see them step up and lead. And like, at camp, they're leading Bible studies, they're leading activities, this is a bunch of people learning how to canoe. This was an activity here where they are in small groups, so they get to lead program for the day. And so they're like, hey, we had a campfire with skits and like a worship service outside, and the kids just like, they completely ran the whole thing for like all 75 of us. So, getting to see them step up and grow, building confidence and all this kind of stuff. And I would say that it's not just because like it's a good community. I don't know if you've been to camp. There's something that happens when you're away with people for 2 weeks, obviously, right? Like you get to know people, but also it being based on the idea that like God has given each of them gifts, and God has a purpose for them, and that like we believe that Jesus like knows them and loves them, and that they can like grow to be a change in the world. I think is also a thing that really makes camp such a special place. So a highlight from the summer was we always give people an opportunity at camp where we talk not it's just about like, would you want to have Jesus in your heart kind of thing, because they're 15 and 16 at this point, and some of them have been coming to camp for like their whole life. But we talk about, but there's a choice that we all have to make, that we're going to say, okay, am I going to give Jesus my whole life? And at 16, at 15, like, who's your life going to be about, right? And so we have communion on the evening that we usually do that, and we talk about that. And this summer we had 13 of the LITs say that this was the very first time that they were like, yeah, I want to go all in with Jesus, and I want my life to be about him. So that's awesome. That was amazing. And to get to be part of that. And it's fun, because I feel like I don't always get to do as much with the kids, but knowing that I just get to be part of facilitating some of that is so good. Yeah. Another huge story of hope from this summer is that, I'll probably talk about this a couple times, but is that many of you have probably heard that mental health among high school age students especially has been a big struggle. And I mean, it's not like it just always stops there, but this year we had a few kids who were coming to camp who were really struggling. A few people who were even I had parents call me and saying they haven't even always been going to school. They're getting a lot of different allowances, but camp has always been a really special place for them. Could they come and do the LIT program? Is that something that you think they could do? And so, because we interview all the kids ahead of time and stuff, because they're going to have a lot of responsibility and things, and so there's a few people that we said, okay, let's try to make a plan and work that out ahead of time. And some of them still struggled at camp, but all of them stayed and grew, and I got to pray with there was one girl who had to go home at one point and some things like that, and I got to pray with her dad at it's 10:30 at night in the parking lot, and we're just praying. And then she was back 2 weeks later, and she did a placement, and I saw her, and she was helping lead a cabin, and she was really growing in her faith and got to experience the love of Jesus at camp. So it's just amazing, because that's not something that you can. That's not an opportunity that everybody gets to have, right? And I know for her and for some of these other kids that it was just so powerful to see God working like that and giving them hope. So, yeah. So, if you want to, I don't want to just be I have 1,000 stories, so I don't want to share all of them. But if you want to know more about what's going on at camp, come and talk to me. I'm going to be here hanging out after and eating food downstairs. So, yeah, another big highlight though that has been great is that we've had students from LIT, especially this year, come back and join me working in high schools. So I get to go at Humberside, Western Tech. We've got, how many schools? I think I might have written it down. So right now, with InterVarsity, this year, we've got a club at Western Tech, Humberside, Richview, Danforth Collegiate, York Mills Collegiate, Northern Collegiate. There's one starting at Monarch Park. There's actually a club that I'm trying to help some girls out with in St. Catharines at Governor Simcoe, and there's a new school in London, Ontario that's got some stuff going on. I don't know why I had to clarify that was Ontario, but just in case you're wondering. But then also we've got one in Temiskaming. So it's funny because I was saying I'm Southwestern Ontario, but Temiskaming is not Southwestern Ontario. So yeah, up near New Lisker. So and I'm going to say a little bit about these girls in a second, but last year I got somebody reached out to me and said, hey, my parents were formerly directors at an university camp, and now I'm a teacher at this school, and we're trying to get a Christian club started. Could you guys help us? And I was like, yeah, we can probably help you. Where are you? And New Lisker. I was like, well, I don't think I can come to New Lisker, but I could help with getting things established. And they've had 3 or 4 teachers who are helping them run the club. They've got a few churches that are supporting them. We've been providing some training for them. We do a monthly call with all the student leaders that can make it and do training. And we've been giving them money for pizza, which sometimes feels okay, what's the big deal, right? You're okay. But last year we had a girl, or 2, I think there's actually 2 kids that came to the club, and if you've read my updates, they came originally because they're I get free pizza. And by the end of the year, they decided to follow Jesus. So I'm the pizza's totally worth it. Yeah, the fact that you will be with Jesus, you will get to know them for eternity, the way that works. So it's just so good to get to be part of that. And part of the reason that I've been hopeful is that last year, was really challenging in the last few years. At one point, I was part of a team, and Leah's on that team. She's still on my team, but at one point there was like 7 of us working here in Toronto, and for the last little while, I've been the only full-time staff. For a little while, I was the only full-time staff in Ontario, and yet God is doing amazing work, and things are growing. And like I said, last year I think there was by the end of the year last year there was 4 groups in like Ontario, and I just read, I think we're almost up to 10 now, and that's just since like September. And so it's amazing to see how God is growing things. I'm gonna get off my notes in a second. I don't want to talk for too long, but so many good things happening. So I'm starting to let people know. One of the really good things, but bittersweet thing, is that because things are growing so much in the high school ministry, I've had to say no to camp. So I'm still going to be going to camp, and it's something I mentioned it partially because I want prayer, is that like I love camp. It's been difficult sometimes for our family, but like usually I'm at camp for about 6 weeks of the summer, and then there's sometimes where I'm up there for like a week at a time during the year and things like that. And so I'm hopefully, the way that we're going to get to do this is I'm going to be helping us find a new person, and I'm going to get to still kind of like work with them and supervise them and the things that I've been learning, because I've learned a lot. Because until, I don't know, a couple of years ago they asked me to organize buses for like an event, and I was like, this is the most stressful thing I've ever done. And then now the last 5 years I've been like running a camp for like 100 kids. So yeah, like I've grown a lot and it's been great. But it's great to be able to say no to something, to know that God is still going to bring somebody into that, and so I could say yes to like another really good thing. So okay, this picture. These are some of my high school students that they were part of the LIT program, and they came back. They are trying to start a group at Monarch Park. If you know where that is, it's on like the Danforth. We're sitting in the McDonald's there, and then this is my friend Nigel, who is, he would probably hate if I told you guys this because he never tells anybody, but he's the president of University of Canada. So he just, whenever people ask him, he's like, I work on the national leadership team. You're like, okay, man, like you're the one in charge. But but one of the wonderful things about him is he really does do a great job modeling humility. And I was chatting with him, and he said, oh, you're going to get to go speak with him. Like, can I come? So I think the girls were a little bit intimidating, but they had a lot of fun, and we were teasing him because he bought a double fillet of fish, and we were like, what? But no, he's an awesome guy. And so it's been so good though to have, like, as we're teaching students in the schools, like I've been getting to lead another place that's things have been growing. We've had these monthly cohort calls, and last year I kept doing them because I was like, even if I'm just praying with students, like at one point last year we had 3 kids coming. The most that we had was probably like, the biggest meeting we had last year was, there was like 6 people, and 2 of those were me and a volunteer. This past Tuesday, we had our second one of the year, and there was 13 of us. So like, things are growing, and I was like counting after. I'm like, oh, there's like another like 7 kids I know who were hoping to be here. So things are just growing so much, and it's exciting to see that. And not just because I feel like, oh, what I'm doing is worthwhile, but I know that each of those kids represents like 4 or 5 kids in their school that they're like inviting to come out to a Bible study and get to hear about Jesus, right? And students have really been stepping up. It's just been amazing. At our first meeting of the year, we were praying for Humberside because I don't know, a lot of you guys will know where Humberside is, but if you don't live in the neighborhood, there's 2 high schools that way. I remember when I first got here, I was like, why are these high schools like a 5-minute walk from each other? But there's great things happening at both schools. In Humberside last year, we didn't have a teacher sponsor. And so the clubs, they need a teacher sponsor, and especially right now, like the students have been doing a lot more leading. Like I used to get to go into the schools more often, but they've been doing a lot of leading. So at our first meeting of the year, we had a student say, I'm going to lead a club, and we prayed, and then you guys were praying. I think it might have actually been close to one of the same nights as your prayer walk. And I get a text, I get an email like the next day, and he's like, yeah, so I talked to a teacher, and we have 2 teacher sponsors. Like a day later. Whereas last year, like we looked all year, and nobody was free, nobody was available. So things have been already started and got going there, and it's been great. So, and just exciting to see that, like, again, God's opening doors. And a huge answer to prayer. And I think, again, thanks for praying for the schools. Another story I wanted to share with you guys is at Western Tech, and just to see like how God's been moving, it's really great. Like I got to go, it was actually on Orange Shirt Day. So September 30th, I got to go and be at the school and meet with some students, and they were doing some planning for the year. And I met a student at the office. I signed in. I got my little like, I got a visitor sticker. And I walk out the door, and somebody, like when you're wearing, I guess it wasn't my name, but I was thinking like somebody called my name. I was like, whatever. And I turned around, it was one of the kids from camp. Who was at camp this summer. He's like one of the last kids that I accepted into the program. And he's like, what are you doing here and everything? And so I invited him to come to the club. And he came to like their club meetings. Like, I didn't know this was happening. He made me take a picture with him, and he sent it to all the kids in his LIT group chat. He's like, look who's at my school. But I think it's just so amazing. One of the things of getting to be at school with the kids, not just like talk to them about like, well, hey, what's going on at school? Like, how are things going? But actually getting to be there with them and say like, hey, you want to come right now and like sit in a lunch meeting and pray? And this lunch meeting was it was so good. I got there, and one of our teachers couldn't come, and I now know 6 Christian teachers at Western, because every time I've been able to go in the last year, a new one shows up. And so this time there was 2 new teachers who I hadn't met. And one of the things I love too is that as much as like, we have differences in some of our traditions and things like that, I think it's so good to see students coming together with the commonality of like, we want to follow Jesus. So in that meeting, one of the teachers was Orthodox, one of the students is Catholic, one of the students goes to a Pentecostal church, one of the students is like Baptist. Then we have one student who's been talking to us because he's like, we don't celebrate Christmas like in my denomination and things like that. And so like, but we've been talking about, okay, so what are the things that we have in common in talking about Jesus, and how do we do that? And it's just so great for them to see like the body of Christ is so big and so good, and there's so many things that God is doing in different ways. And that gives me a lot of hope. So, yeah. And one of the things I've been trying to talk with the students about, and I'm going to share a little bit of, where are we at here? This is the club poster that they made at Western Tech last year. I took this, like this was I cropped it, but this was on a door at Western Tech when I went to visit last year. So, it's kind of fun because when Carl and I, like when I was getting to volunteer with the youth group more, the guys here started, like the guys from this church helped start that club. Mike's boys and some other people helped start that club. And now we're meeting back again in the same student lounge. And last year was the first time since before COVID. So it was like 4 years. And then when I came back this year, I was like, this is so weird because all those guys are like done university now. But God is still working. And so one of the things that I've been really I've been really focusing on, and God has really been putting on my heart, is thinking again, like we were talking about mental health a little bit, and how, especially in high school, like it's not like it's gotten any easier to be a high school student, right? And I don't know what's going on there, but also the world, like there's a lot of things that are really hard, and it's hard to be hopeful sometimes, right? And it's hard sometimes to be hopeful when you're in high school and feeling like, what kind of a difference can I make? That kind of stuff, right? To feel like, is there, like, why should I have hope? And there's people who are struggling with anxiety and depression and those things, and I mean, it's not like you can It's not like you can't struggle with those things and be a Christian, but I think that like the hope that we have in Jesus is not something that everybody has. And so one of the things that I've really been trying to encourage students to do is to just like live as hopeful people in their schools. And it's great because they could do that, like I said, like right away. Like they could sit in a lunch meeting and pray for the test that they have in 10 minutes. And pray about the thing that they're feeling anxious about with their friend. And, you know, for us as Christians, it's not based on our circumstances. It's the hope that we have is based on Jesus and his grace and his faithfulness. So a passage that has been coming back to me for a long time, and I stole a thing from Mike, actually. So Mike used to put, I don't know if he still does, but in his emails, in his signature, he had a verse, and so I started doing that sometimes. And I just have a reference to 1 Peter 3:15. And it says, "But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect." So there's many reasons why I like this verse, and today we're not gonna get too deep into like the historical context of all these things and stuff like that. Like Peter is talking to people who are really struggling and suffering, and I think sometimes high school students feel like, hey, I'm gonna stand up for my faith, and how do I be bold for my faith in a place that I know that some people are gonna say like seriously, like you believe that, you think that, like why, like you're gonna live your life like this? But I think that Peter's also saying to them, like, but as you share your faith, you can be bold, be prepared to give a reason for the hope that you have, and do that with gentleness and respect. So, okay, we're gonna have a little bit of audience participation. You're gonna get to experience maybe a little bit of what it might be like to be at a lunch meeting. I'm stealing this from Leah. This is a thing that she has done and often encourages me to do, called Think, Pair, Share. So what you're gonna do, I just want you to take a minute and think about that question. So, like, what is it about Jesus that gives you hope? And it doesn't, like, there's not a right answer to this. But then what you're gonna do is you're gonna pair. So you're gonna get, it could be 3 people. But I just invite you to turn to someone beside you and just say, like, yeah, here is one of the things about Jesus that gives me hope. And I wrote 4 minutes on there because I'm used to the time of like our lunch meetings are like 40 minutes long, and it's like, gotta go. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of time just to share that. And then if any of you are feeling brave, I would love to hear from 2 or 3 people, what is it about Jesus that gives you hope? Okay, so I want to say this real quick first, though, too, is that when I'm talking about hope and you're sharing your hope, I want to say that I am not saying this is something to force, okay? And I think that's another thing, like when I'm chatting with students, that sometimes we don't feel hopeful. That doesn't mean that we're bad Christians and that we're not following Jesus properly. There's like a lot of things that are going on that are difficult in the world. But I would say, like, you know, I want to encourage you to remember the things that God has done before and how he could maybe do those things again. And as we share those things with each other, if you're somebody, I'm going to say hopefully, if you're somebody who's feeling like you need hope, then hearing some of these things will remind you of that and give you some hope right now. So think about it for a minute, and then I'll set my watch for 4 minutes, and then I'm going to call us back together, all of you students. Okay, go. How are we doing, everybody? We good? Are you guys? I'll give you another 30 seconds. I miss the Toronto water. I swear, it really does taste different. I don't know, it's good. Okay, so I hope that you were able to get to share a little bit about maybe some things that, ways that Jesus has given you hope. Are there 2 or 3 people who would like to share? Oh, there's my watch is telling me I'm on time. Good. I think I just restarted the timer. Yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. Are there 2 or 3 people? It doesn't have to be. Yeah, Andreas, do you want to start? All right.
I just want to start saying that you got to live your life to the fullest. You live your heart. God understands what you're going through because He went through the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's something that gives me hope for sure as well. That like God understands the things that we're going through. Because there's times where it feels like, how could anybody understand what I'm going through, but know that God does? Yeah.
The hope that Jesus gave us is that He defeated death, and He's promised us the resurrection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that, I think I would add to that. I don't know if you could hear him, but like that He's given us, He's promised us resurrection. He's defeated death, and that some of that starts now, right? Like that the resurrection power of Jesus is not just a thing that's going to happen in 25, 30, 40, 50 years, but actually it starts to work in our lives now. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we could have 4, I guess.
So what came to mind for me was a worship song that we sing. It's like, even when I don't see it, you're working. You never stop working.
Yeah. You want to pass it to you?
You know, when I read that, what gives me hope? The hope is that I've accepted the fact that God created me, and who knows me better than God? He knows my life, He knows what needs tweaking. So if He created me, then I have hope that He can fix me.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Yeah. And I mean, I would encourage you to keep thinking about that. Keep sharing that. Don't stop now, right? I mean, we're gonna have lunch together this afternoon. You can keep talking about that. And I think for me, one of the things that gives me hope is that like every day we get to start a new day too, right? Like God's mercies are new every day. Like this past year, I was saying last year was hard. And like Leah and I, there's been things that have been challenging this year, but knowing that, hey, God is still working and He's still good and He's still doing things. And knowing that that we can get up tomorrow and that He's still good, I think is another big thing for me. So I wanted to. There's a quote that I read recently, and it was making me think. And because as I've been discipling young leaders and young Christians, and I mean, not everybody's going to be stepping up into a place where they're like, in charge of something necessarily, but I believe that all of us are leaders because we are followers of Jesus. Like we all represent Jesus to people, whether or not we know. Like whether or not we know that people are watching us, that we are leading and having an influence, right? And so as I've been getting to work with people, kids in their schools, as they're like leading at camp, things like that, I thought it's been so important. How do we lead as Christians? It's not just about like, okay, I know, there's another older quote that says like, leaders know the way, show the way, and go the way. And I'm like, I have a friend of mine who's like, I'm not like that. He's like, that's not true most of the time. It sounds really good, but that actually sometimes as leaders, like especially people who are trying to represent Jesus and follow Jesus, like how do we lead? So this quote that I saw is that it says like Christians can confuse boldness with being boastful. One is rooted in humility, and the other is rooted in arrogance. And so I asked Katie the other day, I was like, I don't know, I hope this doesn't sound too like challenging, because I get to come down, I still come down to Toronto pretty much every Wednesday and get to hang out with Katie in the office sometimes. This past week, I don't know if she's here. I feel like I stopped her from getting a lot of things done. But because I had like lots of ideas and questions. But there is a model of leadership that in our world that has kind of started to creep in. I would say like in some places it's definitely crept in to the church and as Christian leaders, where it's like, okay, like I know the truth, so you better like sit up, shut down, like sit what? Totally. Yeah. There you go. You gotta be humble sometimes. Shut down. Sit down, shut up, and listen. Or just laugh. So, but that sometimes is like, okay, like I know Jesus, and therefore, like you need to, like get out of the way, and like all these things. And like definitely as Christians, like there is a piece that says like we know the truth, like we have this truth, and we can be bold and hold on to that hope, right? Like that verse says, like acknowledge Christ as Lord, and like Jesus is the Lord of my life. I'm not going to change that. But how do we share that with people without seeming like we just think that they're stupid, and how can they not think the way that we think or do things the way that we think? And I think something that's been helpful for me at the high schools is that, like, I mean, I probably would never be allowed back into the schools if I had that kind of attitude. And I know for the students, like, they're like, how do we do this in a way that invites our friends to like come and see Jesus? At that meeting that I was at a couple weeks ago, they were making plans for the year, and they were asking all the kids, like, hey, what are some ideas that we have? And they had some really great ideas. They stole an idea from Nicholas. We did this thing called Pop and Prayer. He came up with it himself. So that's Pam and Mike's son, Nicholas. It was like you go out in the hallway of the school, and you talk with kids, and you say like, hey, can we pray for you? If you let us pray for you, you can have a pop. This was their idea, and it's actually apparently it went well. I remember kids that time we did it. I remember this guy Jun coming back, and he's like, I prayed with 2 teachers. I'm like, that's amazing. So they're thinking of ideas, and they had somebody, and this speaks to, again, like the way that the culture can kind of creep in. But this one guy was like, I have an idea. What if we invited like atheists in the school to come to our club, and then we could like debate them, and we'll post it on YouTube. And we can like, we can prep ahead of time, and we'll just like show them why they're wrong. And I mean, like in some ways, it's like we want to tell people the truth. Like we believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And one of the teachers was really helpful in this. He's like, I'm not really sure that's what we're going for. But I think though, sometimes people are like, that's what it means to be bold for my faith. And I think that for us as adults who are around, younger Christians and stuff, for you guys, as you're talking about, okay, sharing, this is the hope I have in Jesus, something that I always want to encourage people, like I'm just one guy working with high school students in Ontario, right? But there's a whole bunch of us that the way that we model what it looks like to faithfully follow Jesus and share our hope, it's teaching them, right? And sometimes they're seeing louder, to share my faith means like this. And it looks like you got to be aggressive and angry and things like that. But that Jesus, Peter's saying here in this passage, he says, in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Like we are not going to change that. And we're going to be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks for the reason for the hope that we have. But we can do that with gentleness and respect. And I think I've just been challenged because I think that sometimes people aren't seeing that enough. And the younger Christians really need to be reminded that the way of Jesus, as much as it's like the way, we can do that by living out the fruit of the Spirit. And that humility is so important. So, because of some of the circles that I kind of walk in or whatever, sometimes I feel like, I don't think that should be a mind-blowing thing to say, but sometimes it feels like it. I know that I've had to get off social media sometimes because I'm just getting angry. And like I've seen, rhetoric where there's people arguing on, for some reason I decided to get a Threads account. It was a bad idea. And so, but like I would see people commenting on things and I'm like, why do you, what's going on in this person's life and kind of things. And I'd like sometimes I check people's profile. I remember feeling so disappointed. I like check someone's profile who's just saying some horrendous things. And I go, and the whole profile is like Bible verses that they're posting. And like, I'm a Christian and a proud grandpa. And they're like, guys, like how do we model holding out the hope of Jesus in a way that gives gentlemen some respect? So, yeah. Okay. As I wrap up, I just want to share some things that you guys can be praying about. I've, again, like, really, really appreciated this church. Obviously, because I was going to church here is a big part of why the relationship here has been so good. But there's a lot of churches that, like, haven't, they've got other things. And so this has been a really great place to be supported, especially through prayer. So I need to work on making my font bigger, but I don't know if you guys can read that. So there's a couple things that are happening. So because the groups have been really growing, the kids at Richview Collegiate, they had this idea. They want to host a worship night. Well, last year they tried to host it and the principal said no. Part of it was just poor planning on their part. But the principal has been kind of like not sure whether or not she wants it to be a Christian club at the school. And that's something to be praying about, but we've been trying to get these clubs together. So actually I talked with Carl recently and Katie recently, and on December 6th, we're going to be hosting a worship night here for all the clubs together. So people are coming from across Toronto, and we're going to do it, and the kids are going to lead worship, and they're going to share testimonies about what God's been doing in their school. I will probably say a few things unless somebody else, one of them maybe, might step up and say something and stuff. So, but I would ask you guys to be praying for that, just because it's like I'm going to be organizing across Toronto 70 kids that don't know each other to get this thing together. So I'd appreciate prayer for that, and I know that it's going to go well. But and then teacher sponsor at Monarch Park, they still don't have a teacher sponsor, and so in the school board, it's good to have an adult who's there helping them and supporting them, but they are required to have a teacher sponsor to be able to have an official club. So they need a teacher sponsor, and we've just been praying about that. That school is actually, I think they're also looking for a principal right now. Not the kids, but the school. But they're looking for a principal, and she was like, well, hopefully when the new principal gets here, it seems like there's a lot of people who have other responsibilities right now, so they're hoping that when that happens, that might change. Then praying for there's a lot of new Christians growing in their faith, which is great, and some of them, they got connected at their Christian club at school, and the thing that we always try to do is get them connected with a church and to be part of something else. So praying for them, and their students are stepping up, leading. Right now I'm feeling I just want more students doing that. I'm really excited because this past week, we sent an offer letter to somebody else who's going to be coming to work with me, so I'm going to have a full-time staff for the first time in 4 or 5 years, which is great. And then also this year we've had 4 volunteers show up and step up and sign up, and one of them's a pastor at a church here in Toronto, and she's like, there's a high school next to my house, and I can go meet with the kids, and so it's just been amazing to see how God's doing those things, but just continue to pray for the teacher sponsors and the volunteers and more staff would be wonderful. Mental health absolutely is something to continue to pray for. The camp that I get to work at OPC they have been having just a lot of changes, lots of good things. They've had new executive directors in the last couple of years. This year when I said to them hey, I need to focus more on the high school ministry. I'll be here, I'll help what I can, but I can't be in charge. I think I was the 5th person since August who told them that I would either be leaving or having to change my position. So there's just a lot of change going on there, and just praying for them that God would bring the people for that would be wonderful. And then pray for us. Yeah, you guys can read it. The last thing, Leah's just No. The last thing I want to say is that you guys have been so supportive, and right now I was talking with my supervisor recently, and I'm not always the best at paying attention to what's going on, but I fundraise my own salary. God's been so faithful. Like, I've been doing that for the last 13 years. But right now I am in a season where I need to fundraise a little more. And today I'm here. You guys can chat with me. I'd love to chat. If anybody wants to know more about what's going on in the ministry, I would love to grab a coffee and talk about ways that we could, partner. It doesn't have to be financial. I mean, that's something that right now I have to focus on a little bit. But partnering with InterVarsity to think about what are the ways that we can help students be people of hope in their schools. Right? How do we share the hope of Jesus in their schools? So, yeah. Okay. And thanks again. Another way you guys support us getting to come and talk here. So I'm hoping I get to go and chat and share some of these things at other schools, or at other schools. I'm so used to talking at schools. At other churches. But it's just wonderful to get to be here to share this. You don't have to read my next update now. So but let me pray for you as I end. This is a passage from Romans 15, verse 13. So it says, today, God, we pray this. We pray that, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit.